youtube.com/MugenLord. Subscribe to the channel for gaming news, updates, discussion, and live streams. Signing off.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and I'm back again with another video. And today I just wanted to cover this video. I think it's going to be a little bit different. It's more so of a nostalgia trip. It's because if you guys don't know, September is pretty much the month and the anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast, and right about now it's the 20th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast. So I thought hey, why not? Let's just cover some Sega related content this week. There will be other content as well, but you'll notice the theme that mostly is going to be like Sega for this week. So Sega Dreamcast, I have a very, very deep connection with Sega Dreamcast and just Sega in general. I had a lot of fond memories with it, and this console right here, to me, in my personal opinion, is one of the best consoles I've ever played growing up as a kid. And as you can see right here, this console, man, I still have my console and everything, man. The Dreamcast was before its time. I think Sega had this thing with them where they were always trying to shoot for the stars, and they did it with every console. They always thought ahead, too far ahead sometimes, and it pretty much cost them in the long run. They end up now just being a software developer. But when Sega did have consoles, I was always excited for whatever console they released. Now, even though that you notice that I cover a lot of Nintendo content on this channel, I love Nintendo, but Sega was my very, very first console. Sega Genesis was the very first console I had, so that was my first time being a console owner as a kid, when my parents had bought it for me when I was around like 5 or 6 years old. So that's why I always, like, at the time, always preferred Sega over Nintendo. But the Dreamcast, man, like, it was very revolutionary. It had a modem in it where you was able to connect and play online, and there was a lot of online titles. This started the online gaming. This is like, heck with PlayStation Network, heck with Xbox Live. The Dreamcast was where it's at. These guys tried to push the boundaries when it came to online play. You had titles like Phantasy Star Online. You also had, Quake 3 Arena. You had quite a few. You get the 2K Sports, and you had quite a few titles that was very, very unique to this platform and everything. And you was able to experience that with other players around the world, and I thought that was pretty unique, and I thought that was pretty cool. And when it came to the game selection, I really, in my opinion, when it comes to the Sega Dreamcast right here, I believe that Sega probably would have done well if they would have just waited a year later to release the Sega Dreamcast. I believe they would have released it around the same launch window of the PS2, that the system would have done even better, because in my opinion, I believe the Sega Dreamcast during that time had one of the best launches, in my opinion, as far as game selection is concerned. They pretty much covered every genre that you can think of for the Sega Dreamcast when it launched, especially in the United States. Because I remember on Christmas, which was the best Christmas I ever had, it was Christmas of 1999. And my parents, you know me, I'm like the oldest child, and I'm also the spoiled one as well too. But all of us were spoiled, but I was the only gamer. We all gamed, but I was the biggest gamer as far as out of all the other siblings at the time. So I had not only gotten a Dreamcast, but I have gotten a plethora of games that Christmas of 1999. And when I say, like I said before, the launches that they had for the Dreamcast, PS2 wouldn't be able to match that at all. Is because for Christmas, I had Marvel vs. Capcom 1 for Dreamcast. I had Power Stone 1 for Dreamcast. I had Soul Calibur 2. No, I had Soul Calibur for Dreamcast. I had also Sonic Adventure for Dreamcast as well, and Blue Stinger for the Sega Dreamcast. And it was also Ready to Rumble. I had all six of those games for Sega Dreamcast, and not only that, I had gotten the second controller for my Dreamcast and a VMU memory card for my Dreamcast, and also an arcade stick for my Dreamcast. Best Christmas I ever. That was the best Christmas. I had not only my favorite game company that just released one of the most powerful consoles of that time, but I also almost had every game like that covered every like genre and everything, and including the arcade stick. So I was able to get that arcade experience playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and I just thought that was just so cool. But that was the thing. If they was able to, if Dreamcast released during the time when the PS2 had launched, I think the Dreamcast, in my opinion, would have had a successful launch over the PS2, and I think it would have been very competitive, because I remember during the launch of the PS2, they didn't really have any pleasing titles for the PS2 at launch that I was really interested in. But I had Orphan, and I had Dynasty Warriors and Time Splitters. They weren't really that great compared to the launches that I had for the Sega Dreamcast. And I believe if they would have waited a year, maybe we could have got a DVD player for the Dreamcast, is because that was pretty much what killed them. But this console right here, man, like, it's a shame that now that the Dreamcast is no longer around, that everybody respects and everybody appreciates what Sega had done with this console. Besides the Sega Genesis, which was really great, you know, Sega really had a rough patch with the Sega Saturn and, you know, the Sega 32X, the Sega CD. But the Dreamcast was what really changed the game. And playing Dreamcast, I didn't think that gaming can get any better, because it was just so before its time. It was just so ahead of its time and everything, and it was just amazing. And especially Sonic Adventure, like, I was a big Sonic fan, because when I had my Sega Genesis as my first console and everything, the first Sonic game, Sonic the Hedgehog, was the first game I had for my Sega Genesis. So stepping up to the Sega Dreamcast and having Sonic Adventure 1, it just blew my mind. It just blew my mind away. I just couldn't imagine seeing Sonic at high performance and these newer graphics and everything like that, and then have voice acting on top of that, and then branching stories. We was able to play multiple characters just besides Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. And I just thought that was just really cool. And it's just so sad that Sega and, you know, had to really, like, just stop producing consoles, because Sega was one of, at the time especially, was the only, like, developer and the only company who was able to pretty much take on Nintendo at the time, before Sony had jumped in the game, and before Microsoft had jumped in the game with the Xbox and everything. And it was just so sad, man. And then titles like if you also, too, just to remind you too, what made the Sega Dreamcast so great as well, and I didn't want to forget this. I'm glad I stopped and thought about it for a second. Dreamcast also brought that arcade experience home. It's like it was able to replicate and emulate arcade technology, and it was built into this console right here. It was built into this console, and the good thing about the Dreamcast was, whatever game that was in arcade, and especially it was produced by Sega, it was a high probability that it was also going to release on Dreamcast, which I also thought was awesome. So when I used to go to GameWorks or any other arcade place, and I seen all these cool games like Crazy Taxi and what was it, House of the Dead, and all these other games that they had there, it was very, very, very likely that it was going to appear on the Sega Dreamcast. Power Stone was an arcade, appeared on the Sega Dreamcast. Like I said, Crazy Taxi, Soul Calibur, all these games that was in the arcade pretty much appeared on the Sega Dreamcast. Even down to Street Fighter Third Strike, that was an arcade, appeared on the Sega Dreamcast. And that's what I thought was so cool. That's what I thought was so cool about it. And the PS2 didn't have anything. It didn't have anything yet of that time or whatever. But the Dreamcast versions of arcade ports was the much more superior port in my opinion. I thought it emulated really well, especially when Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out for the Sega Dreamcast. I used to play that game for hours, because it was like pretty much like arcade perfect in a sense and everything. And then me having the arcade stick on top of that really just like completed the experience for me and everything. I just thought that was pretty cool with the Sega Dreamcast. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts, and what were your fond memories of the Sega Dreamcast, because I just thought the Sega Dreamcast was just an awesome console, man. And it's a shame that now Sega's not the same company that it used to be. Back in the early 90s and everything, like, it's just a mere shell of itself. and Sega had acquired so many other companies that most of the original talent had left and just moved on to other business ventures and everything. So a lot of people always asked for Sega to return as a console, as a console competitor and everything, but I don't think that would ever happen. They doing well as software developers and everything, but at the same time, like I said before, these guys aren't the same Sega. Even though they make some good games, but they still aren't the same Sega that used to be in the 90s and everything like that. So to expect them to come back with a console and to compete with the others, it would be a cool idea, and I think that would be dope and everything, and I'll be the first in line to have them, especially if they have the software to back it up and everything. But the way things looking right now, I don't think so. But the good news is the fact that Sega is planning to change things a bit when it comes to their marketing. They want to try to rebrand themselves much differently. We have Sega Generations with the online service where you can download multiple different Sega titles, especially the retro titles and everything like that. They trying to get into the movie industry with the Sonic movie and everything like that, even though they have no connections as far as hands-on with the Sonic movie or whatever, but they trying to be more mainstream, like where everybody can connect with it. Even if you're not a gamer, you'll be able to recognize some of these Sega brands and everything. So they really trying to step their game up, and I really appreciate that, and I'm really looking forward to what other initiatives they have. We have yet to see another Sonic game, but it seems like they're taking their time, which I respect. And whatever, so I'd rather wait until next gen if we see a new Sonic adventure game. Hopefully it is an adventure game. But that's it. I definitely want to hear your experience. What do you think about the Sega Dreamcast, and what was your best experiences in time that you had with the Sega Dreamcast? And do you pretty much take it out of storage every once in a while and still play it here and there? And if so, definitely let me know about that. But man, just looking at it right now, I'm just going back through time and everything. So if you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to hear anything else that's related to Sega, make sure you hit the bell to be notified. This is MugenLord signing off. See you Game Fiends later. Peace out. It looks like you reached the end of the video. Well, while you're at it, check out some of my other discussion videos by clicking on the annotations below. And don't forget to follow me on other social media platforms to stay up to date with future content. Signing off.